Abhay?
Please continue.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was saying. These laws are devised to target a particular community. And this is a general thing in South Asia which is happening and which we need to address.
Okay, Nazia, 1,000 madrasas are also going to be banned. So, a center of learning is being closed, and the government is running away from its responsibility of spending money on social sector. Is it not very contradictory?
Uh, Madarsa being banned, I don't think so that 1000 madarsa ban, any proposal which government puts forward, it needs to back by the certain kind of there should be they should have done a proper investigation, and then they should support it by certain facts and arguments, which is not there. And this is a proposal. Government, the foreign ministry on 16 March has said that it is just a proposal, but we are discussing this because of the rise of religious extremism. But this the religious extremism within Muslim community is since 2019 it has become it's become a hue and cry that there is religious extremism within Muslim community, and then started banning burqa and madrasas. But what before 2019 such things were not even covered. Like National Tawheed Jamaat was an unknown group, extremist group, which existed in Sri Lanka, which doesn't even don't we don't even know that how many followers they have within Sri Lanka. So on the basis of 2019 Easter Sunday, I think government is just finding an excuse to target this community, Muslim community. So the banning of thousand madrasas, which is a learning source for so many people, especially people from poor backgrounds who cannot afford, English schools, and so a lot of people go to madrasa. So I don't think so. It's a very wise decision, especially because education is considered to be a source which drives people away from extremism, from terrorism. Then how do you equate that madrasa you are equating it with religious extremism, burqa and niqab you're relating it with religious extremism. like how do you do that? Like, I don't understand. Like,
Okay.
there's no fact.
Okay. Another important issue is that when Corona lockdown was there and when people were fighting against this pandemic, we have seen in India also that a particular group of Muslims, the Tablighi Jamaat, was made a scapegoat, and it was being propagated in media that they are responsible for spreading the virus. Similarly, we have seen in Sri Lanka also that the government has banned that burial, and it has said that if bodies are burial as Muslims do it, as per their faith, it will contaminate water, and that has no scientific basis. And we have seen that the corona pandemic was used as a pretext to do away with the minority rights. The situations was created where more and more Islamophobia was seen. So I mean to say that that if I paraphrase my questions, do you think that the support basis of this government in Sri Lanka is very much dependent on its anti-Muslim agenda? Earlier it was anti-Tamils agenda. Am I right?
Actually, anti-Muslim, yeah, it is anti-Muslim, but at the same time, it's not Muslim alone which is suffering, but Tamils, Muslims, Christians, everyone is the target. Like all the minorities in general are suffering, but of course, Muslims particularly because of Islamophobia. the way they have, for a year they banned cremation, for the year they banned burial of many of the Sri Lankan Muslims. They couldn't bury their loved ones. So these kind of politics is very unfortunate. Like, you're not giving a, a community, a certain community which follow a certain faith, you're not giving them the rights to even burial, when there is no facts backing the fact that you cannot bury, that groundwater contamination will happen because of the burial. But still, for a year the government has didn't allow them to bury, and now when the whole international UN cry took place over it, they have automatically said that yeah, burial will be allowed. So without facts, without any kind of backing, they do all these things. So this shows that the government is very Islamophobic in its nature. And yes, the government is also, as I said, it's an ethnocratic democracy. So it does depend upon consolidation of Sinhala Buddhist votes. And there is also rise of religious extremist groups like Bodhu Sena, who are contributing. They are kind of assisting each other. The government and the religious extremist groups, they support each other. Like government, they draw the legitimacy from these groups, that they are the they are the ones who are going to save Buddhism, save the Buddha Sashana from the Muslims who are a threat to them, because of the fact that the Muslims, the fact is, Muslims in Sri Lanka, they are like their native language is also Tamil. So that is also an issue, because Tamils are definitely targeted, but Muslims ethnic community also have Tamil as their language, native mother tongue they have. So they are a threat for the majority community, and the government harp on these. They create fear within the community, they create threat within the community, and only then they know they can thrive. Because earlier Rajapaksa government in 2016 was voted out of the power because of the corruption. Like the key positions were under the Rajapaksa family. So the government was voted out of the power. But again in 2019, after the Easter Sunday attack took place, again they have fueled the tension and the friction within the society, and again they have come back to power using this kind of friction and creating threat within the society about the other community. So yeah.
The final question, Nazia. So given that gross human rights violations in Sri Lanka and other parts of South Asia also, your suggestions as a scholar for better society, for a democratic society, for a society where torture, where violation do not take place? Yes.
From my side, I can say that minorities in general in South Asia, they suffer. It's not about A country or B country. In general, minorities are suffering. So as we also have SAARC, which is non-functional. So to suggest, to give, there's some issue. Yeah. So, in general, I can only say that the government need to understand that we are democratic countries, and as a democratic country, there is a certain right which is enjoyed by the minorities as well. So the minorities, it's very important to with that majority, if it's enjoying the rights and they are getting rights, their rights, justice. Similarly, the minorities have the rights to their justice, to their, the certain rights which they enjoy within the democracy, which they should be given. And there's nothing wrong in, talking about it. It's not like a lot of times talking about minority issues in any country is termed as appeasement. Why it should be termed as appeasement? Like minorities are like citizens of the country, and why can't their rights and justice can be talked about in a country? And it is important to talk about it because especially if you see the laws which governments are making in the name of national security is targeting the minorities, and minorities like Tamils 14% in Sri Lanka, Muslims 9% in Sri Lanka, targeting, Tamils are targeted because of their, because they are Tamils. Muslims are targeted because they are Muslims. Tamils issue is because India also have a large amount of Tamil population, so they are seen as a threat for the country. Muslims are seen as a threat because of the global scenario, Islamophobia, that they are a threat to Buddhism. What happened in Afghanistan, the Bamiyan Buddha, the attack which took place. So these things are used by the government to further their own agenda. But I would just say that minorities' rights and justice needs to be needs to be talked about, especially in South Asia, because if you see, minority in one country is a majority in other country. So I don't see any use in targeting and silence of other countries in that. Like, you need to talk about it because there are borders. Certainly there are borders, but borders are also fluid, because one country has a majority, other country the same is minority. So it's very the role of the government is main. The government needs to acknowledge that there is certain rights and rights of minorities which needs to be given.
Thank you, Nazia. Friends, you know that in democracy, in representative democracy, minorities are not given justice. In several ways, they are suffering. And when the state is facing a crisis, it increasingly demonizes minority for diverting the attention from the real issues. We have seen such a phenomena in India, and now Nazia Khan, PhD scholar from South Asian Studies, Jawaharlal Nehru University, she has also given us detailed analysis about how Muslim minorities and also Christians and also the Hindu Tamil minorities, they are being attacked by the government. Nazia, thank you very much for enlightening us and giving, what should we say, the gist of your research. We will definitely come back to you and we will ask you further and more questions later. But for now, I think our discussion has come to an end here. On behalf of all of you, Nazia, thank you very much for joining this Facebook Live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.